happened between you and Talib on the field early in the game?
I don't know. You go ask him because he didn't finish the game. Ice up, son. Ice up.
4th down. Pocket is there for Schlee. He'll buy some time. Heave it to the end zone at the back, and it's incomplete. And the ball game is over. Vanderbilt with the upset in week 1.
Welcome back into the Door Report, episode 280 on a lovely Wednesday evening, September 4th, 2024. I am Will Byrum, joined as always by my victorious co-host, Trevor Hulan, a.k.a. Hack Squad, Jim Duggan. Trevor, we're back, baby. Before I forget, we are presented by 615 Collectibles. If you're into sports cards or sports memorabilia, check out 615 Collectibles on eBay. Shipping is always fast and free. Check them out on eBay. And we also need to continue to shout out Outlaw, TDR's official beer sponsor.
Woo!
Helped us out at the tailgate in Lot 2 on Saturday. They were very popular.
Dude, those Outlaw Mile High Light beers, only 105 calories. They were crispy in that late August sun. They saved me. I owe my life to Outlaw beer.
So we got a bunch of 12-packs dropped off. I did not bring that many of them. I think I only brought like 6 or 7 of the 12-packs that we got dropped off because I was like, it's an 11 a.m. kick. We're getting out there early, but we're going to be tearing it down by 9:45, 10 a.m. to get in the stadium. The Outlaws ran out around 9:45. So quick. So I will have more at the Alcorn State all-day tailgate. I am bringing the remaining supply to the Alcorn State tailgate. So come out to Lot 2 for that one, but they were very popular in another incredible Lot 2 tailgate for TDR. Trevor, I don't even have the words to open up this podcast. We're a little.
I do.
Okay, Trevor, you open it up.
Exit light, and tonight, take my hand off to Never Land. How about the doors, Will? How about those doors?
Vanderbilt comes out week 1 on Saturday, double-digit underdogs against Virginia Tech, and pulls off the 34-27 upset victory in overtime. On episode 280, we are going to dig into that Vanderbilt Commodores victory. Trevor's beaming over here with a gigantic smile on his face.
Well, who's got it better than us, baby? No one.
No one, baby. Trevor believed. Many did not believe, including myself. Trust in Hack Squad. Trust in Hack Squad's predictions. We've got a bunch to get into in episode 280. We're going to be recapping, of course, very quickly the Virginia Tech game and then giving our 3 key takeaways from that week 1 victory. We're also going to shout out some individual players, and we're also, or at least I'm going to try to point out, because we are reacting to this a few days after, I'm going to point out a couple concerns. This is not to throw a wet blanket. Will is dead.
Yeah.
Will is on the hype train.
Yeah.
Now. But
choo-choo,
there are a few valid concerns. There are reasons that Vanderbilt blew a 17-point lead they gained in that first half. A few balls that bounced their way that could have potentially been turnovers. There are a few things that they can learn from. And there's one thing that's for sure. It is always better to learn from a win than to learn from a loss.
I'll drink to that, brother.
So before we get into all that, and the Alcorn State preview. That's going to be a brief preview.
Yeah.
So we are going to have the Alcorn State preview, our 3 keys to the game, and our predictions for the Alcorn State game. That'll be after the TDR cocktail break. But
little sneak peek. Doors on top.
Sneak peek.
Doors on top, baby.
Doors on top on that one. Before we get into all that and much more, don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Door Report. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Our podcast is available on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and Google Podcasts. And while you're at it, give our podcast 5 stars and a review on iTunes. It's now time for segment 1.
Where'd you get those sunglasses? Did they come with the car?
It's from your mom.
Welcome back into episode 280 of The Door Report. Trevor, we are in the recap portion of Vanderbilt's 34-27 victory over the Virginia Tech Hokies in overtime. And I just have one thing to say to open this up. It's exactly how I opened up the spaces. Trevor, what the fuck is a Hokie?
What in the world is a Hokie?
All that talk, all the condescending tone from the Virginia Tech fan base across social media, from their media in general.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to beat them by 40. It's just a matter of how badly they beat them. The comments on our YouTube video and on our Twitter about how we don't know ball, and it's not about containing the run game and allowing them to have some big plays in the passing game. All that shit.
Them calling us idiots on the VATEC 24/7 message board, saying the snow report, we don't know ball. Who's laughing now?
What a performance. I don't know. This might be a clunky episode because my brain, even though we're now almost 5 days removed from that victory, my brain still can't fully process that they actually went out there and did it.
Yeah.
A stat that I read on Twitter, I'm assuming it's correct. I've heard it referenced across a lot of, I think I even heard it referenced on SEC Network.
Mm-hmm.
Teams that were double-digit favorites on week 1 Saturday of college football were 58-1 straight up. That one loss was Virginia Tech. Vanderbilt was the one double-digit underdog that won outright on Saturday, week 1. For once, Vanderbilt was the team that did it.
Yep.
And that's why I kind of debated even doing a real game recap, but I really want to reiterate, and we'll get into this in our keys, which is what I don't want to keep stepping on over and over. But there were so many opportunities for this team to be the same old Vanderbilt.
Absolutely.
To come out there, oh, they played them tight. Man, they jumped out and looked good in that first half. You know, the athletes just took over. Coaching took over on the other side. That didn't happen this time. Mm-hmm. It felt different, Trevor. Yep. It felt different.
And that's the beauty of it. And like you said, we'll get into this with our keys to the game, because a lot of my keys to the game honestly revolve around Vanderbilt holding on, or not even holding on, losing the lead, but coming back and getting the victory. During the game, there were multiple points in the game that you could name specifically to where Virginia Tech got some momentum. And it might not even have been them scoring, but just something would have gone their way, either on offense or defense. And you as a Vanderbilt fan, I know me for certain thought it's over. Like, I remember, I think we were up 20-10 at one point, and I remember, I forget exactly what it was. I think we punted it to them, and I just remember it's over. It's over. They're going to blow this, and they didn't.
There were so many times you saw the old Vanderbilt coming out.
Yeah.
So many times, and this team just responded differently. So we will keep hitting on that. Vanderbilt also, just as a note, received 8 votes in the AP poll. So Vanderbilt, I think, technically is like number 35 in the country as of right now.
Are you an Athletic subscriber?
I'm not.
So the Athletic has Vanderbilt as the 25th best team in the nation. Then again, that doesn't matter because they're not AP or coaches or playoff, but the Athletic has Vanderbilt as the 25th best team in the nation.
Before we get into this, there's a real possibility. I'm not saying it's going to happen. It depends on how things shake out, how people vote, because Vanderbilt's next 2 matchups are Alcorn State and Georgia State. Don't want to get ahead of myself. There's a real possibility Vanderbilt could be ranked going into that Missouri game. If everything plays out in the best way possible, Vanderbilt wins those 2 games, and some teams that are kind of on the fringe of the top 25 lose. I saw some Twitter accounts debating whether or not that really matters.
Yeah.
I know it's dumb, but just being ranked at any point in a season for Vanderbilt would be a huge symbolic win.
Absolutely.
As dumb, as lame as it sounds, that would just be a symbolic next step in success. Success is not always linear, as Clark Lee keeps saying and has said all throughout the summer leading into year 4. Success is not always linear. That would be another step in the line of success.
Yes.
So that would mean something.
Yeah.
Regardless of if this season ends up playing out in a miraculous way or anything like that, just getting into that top 25 and even being discussed as a respectable program again is an incredible step.
If Vanderbilt was to do that, Clark Lee would do something that Vanderbilt has not done since 2008. Because the people say, well, they ended 2012 and 2013 ranked. Yeah, they ended it. At no point during that actual season was Vanderbilt ranked a top 25 team. Last time that happened was that magical 2008 season. And I absolutely agree. That means something. That means that you're making progress. That means that you are taking the right step forward. As Clark Lee said, success is not always linear, and it sure as hell hasn't been that case with this Vanderbilt football program. That would be I don't even know if it's symbolic. That is an objective. Yeah. It's symbolic, but it is also an objective win for Clark Lee and for this football program.
You're saying it's a step in the right direction, getting ranked. Saturday was a step in the right direction.
A couple steps in the right direction, you might say.
That was 5 steps in the right direction with that win on Saturday.
Big ass steps.
Also, before I forget, I'm about to get into the recap, the Lot 2 tailgate, just want to shout out everybody that was involved in that, everybody that came out, stopped by, said what's up, the dudes that had the Joey Dwyer face cut out that stopped by.
I know their names, but I'm blanking on it, but they were awesome. Shaw, I think one of their Logan Shaw.
I can't remember.
If I butcher that, I'm so incredibly sorry. But I know your face.
I can see their faces. I also a guy that does a lot of work for the TDR tailgates. I wanted to make sure to shout him out because he was out there bright and freaking early to set up the tailgate so everybody could enjoy it. Miller McKee. The Chef Miller,
the dude,
want to shout him out, does so much of the work behind the scenes on those tailgates so we can enjoy it and have a great time. So wanted to give Miller a shout out before I forgot.
Absolutely.
I got too deep into the podcast.
The official chef of Lot 2, the sous chef, the head chef, the all-around chef of Lot 2, feeding thousands. Miller feeds thousands. That's our boy, the Lot 2 Lizard. He's the best. The Lot 2 Lizard and Chef Miller. What can this man do?
The Lot 2 tailgates, they would happen. They would look nothing like what they look like, and they would be 2% as awesome as they are without Miller.
You got to shout out his mom, too, dude. Shout out Miss Kitty, dude. Miss Kitty.
The godmother
of TDR. Godmother. The Lot 2 godmother, TDR's godmother, she makes those tailgates really pop.
This is why we get called the Snore Report, but also why I think like a couple people actually like us. Miller's mom, Kitty, did not like my cornhole boards. I especially brought. I had some cornhole
nice
boards.
Traditional lady.
Yeah, I had some cornhole boards that were Playboy cornhole boards.
They weren't showing it
with old school covers. Nothing explicit, but old school covers on the boards.
Pretty tame by today's standards.
I came back from using the porta potty, and she had covered them up with cardboard and tablecloths, and put as you knock over the football or there, whatever.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
But yeah, she was not a fan, so I'm going to continue to battle with her. She doesn't like my music. She doesn't like. We're in a constant battle, but God bless her.
She's awesome, dude.
But let's get into this Virginia Tech Vanderbilt game recap. So this is going to be really quick because anybody listening to this at this point watched the game and knows what happened. So I had a title in my mind when Vanderbilt was blowing the lead in the second half. And the title of this episode could have easily been A Tale of Two Halves. Vanderbilt comes out, jumps out early. I'm going to get the play-by-play pulled up, actually, because I'm going to screw this up. Vanderbilt comes out, first drive, drives it down the field, field goal, Brock Taylor knocks it through. Vanderbilt goes up 3-0.
Also, I know we got to keep it going. This is going to be clunky. During that field goal, I turned around and looked at Will and said, I told you. You didn't believe me whenever I said I was a Brock Taylor truther. Do you believe now? When he just goes, I believe.
Well, there's going to be some plays later that he's still got some things to prove.
Okay. He's young. He's young.
I do believe it. Brock Taylor's going to be a hell of a kicker.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt then goes on to stop Virginia Tech with a big man interception. Tip from Brian Longwell, intercepted by Seabrooks. Hell of a way to start. Vanderbilt then, in very un-Vanderbilt-like fashion, converts that turnover into a touchdown on third down. An incredible throw from Pavia. An even better catch from Quincy Skinner Jr., toe tapping in the end zone.
Take your lap, brother. You have been like I have been a ride or die for D-Rock. You've been a ride or die for Quincy. Take your lap, brother. Take your lap.
He did. We will get to it. He did have a key drop late in that game, but he was outstanding. All those reports during fall camp that he was a non-factor, he is clearly him and Cher. Okay, I've got to bring this up. This is going to be very clunky. I apologize to everybody listening, but it is what it is. We have a lot to talk about. The PA announcer was pronouncing it Sherrell.
Is that right?
Is it Junior Sherrell? Have we been butchering it since he's been at Vanderbilt?
Junior, if you hear this, please DM us with like a phonetic spelling of your name, because
Sherrell.
I always said it was Sherrell.
I always said Cheryl because it has an I in the name.
I always said Cheryl too, but now I'm like, is it Sherrell?
Yeah, so that's a side note, but incredible way to capitalize on that. I was kind of in shock. In Section F, you can't really see that bottom corner of the end
I didn't
zone,
know if it was complete
so
or
I didn't know
incomplete.
if it was. Incredible catch. Vanderbilt goes up 10-0 early in the first quarter. Vanderbilt then forces a stop, drives all the way down the field in dominant fashion, 11 plays, 80 yards, punches it in on a Cedric Alexander run. Vanderbilt's up 17-0.
Yeah.
Before you can blink, it feels like. In
the vibes
game.
were crazy.
Dominated time of possession. I will say at that moment, I had a bad feeling in the pit of my stomach.
Yeah.
I had a really, really bad feeling.
Well, it's because you're a wet blanket Will.
Wet blanket Will. I've also just been a Vanderbilt fan for too long. So I had a good feeling, actually, when Vanderbilt went up 17-0. I had a bad feeling when on the next possession, this is a portion of the game that's getting kind of overlooked.
The middle eight.
Well, not even just the middle eight, but this drive in particular at the end of the first half. Vanderbilt had two opportunities to create turnovers, to cause Kyron Drones to have a second interception. One of them was on a tip that would have been a pretty impressive diving catch from C.J. Taylor, but a play he should make. He had both hands on the football. One of them was a pass that Dericky Wright will not have an easier interception than that the entire season.
You're absolutely right.
Two drops very quickly.
Back-to-back plays.
That should have been turnovers for Vanderbilt, keep the momentum going completely to close out that first half, possibly go up 20 or 24-0 going into that second half, knowing Virginia Tech gets the ball to open it up. Instead, you drop those interceptions. Virginia Tech's able to drive down and kick a field goal before the half ends, 17-3, and Virginia Tech's getting the ball to open the half. That was a big moment. And in the past, and this is why I had a bad feeling in the pit of my stomach, I was thinking those are two plays that we're going to be looking back on at the end of this game and saying, man, they had a chance to really stomp on their throats.
Yep.
And they missed it. They missed that chance, and that felt like some real same old Vanderbilt stuff to miss that opportunity to really stomp on the opponent's throat.
Yeah.
So 17-3 at halftime. We're feeling good at half. Feeling very good at halftime. Obviously, you would be at 17-3. You know Virginia Tech gets the ball to start. You know that they're going to make halftime adjustments. It may have shocked them early what Vanderbilt was doing. We said it was going to be different. Boy, was it different.
Yeah.
After we get through this game recap, I'll read some stats and where Vanderbilt ranks in percentages in the country of like run plays called, and it's pretty crazy. It was even more different than I expected.
Yeah.
So how are you feeling at halftime up 17-3?
Oh, at halftime, you can't tell me nothing. I literally was meandering the concourse trying to find Conquer and Prevail ales. Could not find any. Still have yet to had a Conquer and Prevail ale. I was just sort of meandering. Had a wonderful conversation with Richie Hoskins' father, great man, as well as Dante Carter's father, also great man. And then was mobbed by the Pavia family, which they are wonderful people. They are a handful, and I absolutely love those people. I felt great. You couldn't tell me nothing. I thought we were going to coast on to victory. But once again, that is because I never take off my gold color glasses. So this is the duality of TDR.
This is the duality of TDR because all me and my dad were sitting there talking about was they're going to come out on this first drive, score a quick touchdown, brand new ball game.
Yeah.
And that was what was racing through my mind was if they would not have gotten that field goal, it was still a 3-score game, 17-0, 20-0, 24-0. I would have felt a lot different. But I was thinking this feels like a setup where we're going to have a ball game.
Yeah.
And the momentum is going to shift. A lot of Virginia Tech fans.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about the crowd a lot. I feel like it gets enough attention as it is. It was 70% Virginia Tech fans at least inside of that stadium. There were quite a few Vanderbilt fans on the home side, but that visitor side outside of the student section was like 95% Virginia Tech. And there were, I would say it was probably 60% Vanderbilt fans generously, probably more like 50-50 on the home side.
Yeah.
So once that momentum shifted, it was going to shift.
Yeah.
But thankfully, Vanderbilt didn't really, until the fourth quarter, allow it to shift.
Yeah.
They did enough.
They
so
stymied it.
as my nightmare scenario in my head was playing out at halftime, that's what happened. Virginia Tech comes out, quick drive, 6 plays, 83 yards, 2 minutes, 18 seconds, goes down, scores a touchdown, 17-10. Vanderbilt gets the ball, puts together a solid little drive, and has the opportunity to kick a field goal. Gets a false start.
Yeah.
Was it a false start or delay a game?
A delay a game.
Delay a game. Backs him up 5 yards, knocks Vanderbilt out of field goal range. Vanderbilt then proceeds to punt. Mirko's punt goes into the end zone. Basically, Vanderbilt's going to gain 20 yards in field position. Feels really down, like Virginia Tech's about to take, not control, but tie it up and eventually take control. Virginia Tech makes a very Vanderbilt mistake. 2 number zeros on the field. 5-yard penalty, replay 4th down. Puts Vanderbilt back in field goal range, and Brock Taylor buries a 53-yard field goal.
Yeah.
That sequence of events is basically what was the difference in the game.
Yeah.
That was the difference in the game, was one small, dumb mistake from the Virginia Tech coaching staff and an incredible kick from Brock Taylor and a lot of nuts on Clark Lee to send him out there because Brock Taylor was able to kick that ball before they called that delay game, and he missed it.
He did. He
missed that first attempt. So the confidence Clark Lee has in Brock Taylor to send him out again, and he drilled it. That was ultimately the difference in the game, and Clark Lee not losing that middle 8 fully like we always talk about.
Absolutely. And once again, I want to take my victory lap as a Brock Taylor truther. I love me some special teams, but we got to give some play to Blake Fromang. He texted me today and said, from now on, Brock Taylor is no longer Brock Taylor. He is now Brocket Launcher. So we will now refer to Brock Taylor as Brocket Launcher.
I've heard Big Leg Brock.
Big Leg Brock. I like Brocket Launcher.
Brocket Launcher's good. Big Leg Brock, paying a little homage to Big Leg Joe.
Yeah.
But a little more alliteration.
Yeah.
With the B's. This is when Vanderbilt's offensive game plan threw up some red flags to me.
Yeah.
This is when they committed the ultimate cardinal sin, which is going into a shell too early on offense.
Got too conservative.
Got too conservative too early. There was too much time on the clock. Vanderbilt actually goes on to force a 3-and-out. Stops Virginia Tech after they go back up 20-10. Virginia Tech punts the ball back. You're feeling pretty good. Vanderbilt then proceeds to go 3-and-out. 3 plays, 3 yards. For some reason, they decide to bring in on that possession Eli Stowers and utilize him in the Wildcat for 1 play. Didn't work.
No, he got. I don't even think he picked up a yard.
Yeah, very odd decision at that moment in the game to pull that out of your back pocket.
There was another one that was, when we'll get to it, that was very odd to pull out a certain play at that point in the game.
But Vanderbilt has to punt the ball back in 1:41. Virginia Tech drives down, gets a field goal. Defense bends, doesn't break, gets a field goal. But it's a 1-possession game again, 20-13. Vanderbilt then gets the ball back, runs the ball, goes 3-and-out. No, did they go 3-and-out? Yes, they went 3-and-out. Punts the ball back to Virginia Tech. It's the 4th quarter. Virginia Tech gets the ball back, basically immediately drives down the field. 7 plays, 78 yards, 2 minutes, 58 seconds, tie ball game.
Yep.
At that point,
I said it's over.
I really thought it was over.
I looked at my dad and I go, we're done.
The tide had turned. It looked like Vanderbilt's offense was completely stagnant. All the juice they had in the first half, it felt like it was gone. They scored 3 points at that point in the whole second half. Virginia Tech had all the momentum. You felt the energy building in that stadium.
Yep.
This is the moment Vanderbilt rolls over.
Yeah.
This is the moment they roll over and die.
You're like, we've seen this how many times? We're only 27. How many times have we seen that in our lifetime? Too many to count.
Too many to count.
Too many to count.
Incalculable. Vanderbilt then proceeds to give up a broken coverage touchdown. A massive play on, I think it was 3rd and 10.
It was
third
third
and 11.
down.
It was a 3rd down. Vanderbilt, I don't know whose fault it was. I don't think it was Dante Carter's fault. It might have been. He was the nearest defender. I don't know if he had deep coverage responsibility on that.
So
I watched the replay. I couldn't see because we don't have all 22
I think
footage.
Martell Height, and I don't blame him for this because they ran a lot of screens and they threw a lot of passes behind the line of scrimmage. I think Martell Height, if my memory serves me correctly, bit on a screen what he thought was a screen, and that left Trudell Berry.
Yeah, but I couldn't tell if he had like flat responsibility and
Yeah.
Dante was supposed to have deep. It was just a broken cover.
Yeah.
It was a blown assignment.
I think Trudell had flat coverage.
Something that you will have on film now and hopefully should not happen yet. But
it looks bad for Trudell because he's the only one within 15 yards, but I don't think that's not on him. I don't think.
Yeah, so after Virginia Tech scored that touchdown to go up 20-20, Vanderbilt, I accidentally skipped over this, but Vanderbilt, 5 plays, 39 yards, punts the ball back. Then that's the blown coverage touchdown. And it was like, yep, exactly what we thought at 20-20. Vanderbilt's going to roll over and die. It was a hell of an effort, but the storyline is going to be Vanderbilt crumbles.
Yep.
And eventually the talent wins out, a tale of two halves.
Yep.
I think I even tweeted out after that 27-20 touchdown, Clark Lee has been put in a blender in the second half. He is not the guy.
Yep.
And at that point, it felt like he had been put in a blender.
Yeah.
Like his game plan that he had to prepare all offseason and all the secrecy, it worked in the first half. The on-the-fly adjustments at halftime, it felt like Pry won those.
Yeah. Well, it felt like in the second half, you're like, wow, this is really just a gimmicky offense.
That, in a way, yeah, it did. And also the defense all of a sudden. Just drones got in rhythm.
Yep.
But in very un-Vanderbilt-like fashion, after Virginia Tech scored that touchdown with 4 minutes left in the ball game, Diego Pavia trots out.
The big pisser.
The big pisser. Drives Vanderbilt down the field. Hell of a time for Loic Fungi to get his first catch as a Vanderbilt Commodore. Huge play for him to step in. A guy that supposedly had been so disappointing all fall camp comes in, catches the ball for 19 yards, moving down the field.
Welcome to West End, Mr. Fungi.
And what a play on that toss over to Cedric Alexander by Diego Pavia. That's some magic you just cannot script.
Dude, it was
erotic.
Straight erotic vibes.
It was erotic. Vanderbilt ties the ball game up 27-27. This is the portion of the game now that has been skipped over in every highlight compilation that I've seen. Vanderbilt then proceeds to force a punt very quickly in 5 plays. Or in 3 plays, a 3 and out against Virginia Tech. Vanderbilt gets the football back. Pavia drives them down the field, and they have a chance to win the ball game in regulation.
Set up really well by Martell Height. Shout out to Martell Height on that punt return. That was sensational.
Vanderbilt has a solid punt returner in Martell Height. That's a big
He shocked me.
That was a huge punt return by Martell Height. Drive down the field. Vanderbilt commits the cardinal sin of coaching, which is college coaches treating their college kicker like he's a professional kicker. If you were in the NFL and coaching, set up for the 42-yard field goal to win the game in regulation all freaking day.
Yeah.
In college, I like Brock Taylor. I think he's going to be a great kicker for Vanderbilt. I did not like the decision to just completely set up for that 42-yard field goal and not really attempt to get any closer. They allowed the clock to run down, didn't run an additional play just to set up for the field goal. Brock Taylor comes out, misses it.
Yeah, wide right.
That felt like another moment of, oh no, toast. This is going to be another. They found a new gut-wrenching way. They found a new way to rip our heart out of our chest. Virginia Tech then wins the overtime coin flip, so Vanderbilt has to go on offense first.
That was another, dude, as dumb as that sounds, whenever I saw that Vanderbilt was going on offense first, it's like, it's over.
It's over.
As dumb as that sounds, going on offense first, like, we're toast. We're toast.
Pavia. That's the answer. Pavia and Alexander are, and we're going to hit on this when we talk about players and our key takeaways. Pavia and Alexander are a legitimate SEC running back quarterback duo. And when you have a quarterback, you have a chance.
Yeah.
And Vanderbilt went in, scored immediately.
Yep.
And Kyron Drones dealing with some cramp issues.
Soft.
In that southern heat.
Soft.
Maybe a little bit, but when you have cramps, should have been training better in the offseason. But when you have cramps, you can't do anything.
I drank one water. Didn't cramp all game long.
I will say I was dry heaving in the parking lot after the game.
But after the game, not during the game. He was during the game.
I want to hit on one thing. So Virginia Tech comes out. This is another forgotten part with their backup quarterback. First play of overtime, he runs it for like 14 yards.
To the 11.
Yep. Gets the ball to the 11 for Virginia Tech.
I thought then I goes, it's over.
Because my dad made a very funny comment. He said, well, a backup quarterback against Vanderbilt, he's about to be unstoppable. And then immediately comes out and runs for 14 yards. And I was like, we're going to lose. It's the backup quarterback is going to be completely unstoppable. Then Kyron Drones came back in for like second down.
Yeah.
After cramping up and being unable to play. And they ran a quarterback draw.
And he got killed.
And had to come out of the game again.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
Thanks, Brent. I appreciate it.
That was another. I was listening to some Virginia Tech fans talking about the game and recapping, and that was a complaint that I was like, yeah, that was very dumb.
Yeah.
To bring in your quarterback who's clearly your leader and has a much better control of the offense and a better arm, and run a quarterback draw with him, immediately knocking him back out of the game in overtime.
You're in overtime. You need that. You wasted down knowing that you can't win with a field goal.
Yep. And then
coaching malpractice.
And then MTSU transfer, who had a quote after the game saying, I came here to change things. Zaylen Wood comes up with a big sack on third down.
Dog.
And then incredible coverage on fourth down. Scrambles around Virginia Tech's backup quarterback, Colin Schlee. Incomplete pass in the back of the end zone. Dante Carter delivers a hit that I was very afraid was going to draw a flag. I know everybody was a little afraid it was going to draw a flag, but no flag was thrown. The Commodores win. Vanderbilt is 1-0, secures the upset victory 34-27. In Hack Squat's predictions, we trust. I was wrong, and I have never been more happy about it. However, we talked about it on the spaces. I will take my victory lap. My keys to the game.
Nailed them.
All of them came true.
Give me some big dog.
Number one was they had to run the ball for 140-plus yards. They ran the ball for 140-plus yards. Number two was they have to force Kyron Drones to throw an interception. They have to. And they did it. Should have had more than one, but they got one, and they have to win the line of scrimmage. And they won the line of scrimmage.
Yep.
The line of scrimmage one is like an obvious one, but the other two were pretty specific.
Yeah.
And they did both of those. So let's run through this box score really quick. Well, Trevor, first off, we got to get to our three keys. So I was going to say, first off, I just want to know your thoughts, but let's hear, how were you feeling after that victory? How was Hack Squad? Because I know I was big embrace with my dad. I know you had a big embrace with your dad after the victory. Ran down. We had a big embrace. I was hugging everybody. I hugged the random dude.
I was hugging random guys, dude. It was
all around.
The vibes. So literally during the entire fourth down play, I just had my hands up in the air. I started out with the VU hand signal, and then I just had my hands up in there, kind of like this. I'm going to put the mic down for a second and watch on YouTube. The entire play. Incomplete pass. I hug my dad for like what feels like eternity. Then all of the sudden, me and my father are just mobbed. Me and my father are just mobbed by Braden, Jalen, Scott. We all group hug. I go up there. I'm hugging you and Mr. Steve. You're hugging my dad. We're hugging Miles and Marty. We're hugging Big Joe, his dad. I'm hugging random people. I held somebody's baby. The vibes were crazy, dude. I can't believe this is my life.
And this is one of those moments. So I got into it with some Virginia Tech fans in an altercation in the section. I will give myself the benefit of, after that game, I did not turn around and say a word. I just celebrated the victory.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about turning around and saying anything. I did want to. I wanted to, but I was just celebrating the win. So I did get into a physical altercation in Section F with some Virginia Tech fans and said a lot of bad words. But I did not do it after the game, and I did not get ejected. So that's called progress, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm literally sitting there. It's a TV timeout, and I'm just like so sad because we had just given up the lead. And the lady next to me goes, "Oh, there's a fight." I just turn around and I see Mr. Steve holding the Will back like he was a rabid dog. I mean,
he wasn't holding me back. He was pulling me back because he didn't really realize what was going on, and he was pretty pissed at me. It's a little funny now. It was not funny in the moment. I went up there and I flipped a hat off a dude's head and shoved a couple guys, and they shoved me. And then my dad kind of one other dude kind of got in between us. And then my dad kind of pulled me away afterwards, but he was not holding me back. It had already escalated. So I'm working on improving that. That will hopefully not happen the rest of the season. But
no fists were thrown.
I did say it in the spaces. We deal with a lot of opposing SEC fan bases in First Bank Stadium. I've been to a lot of away games. The Virginia Tech fan base was probably the worst or second or third worst fan base I've ever actually dealt with in the stadium. In general,
they were up there with South Carolina fans.
South Carolina is probably the worst. In general, in person, even the very annoying fan bases on social media, the actual fans you meet are not that bad.
Yeah.
In general, there's always the occasional bad apple, but in general, in person, everybody's pretty kind of fine. The focus of the trash talk is focused on the field.
Yeah.
Virginia Tech was chirping people in our section and me and everyone constantly.
I got into it with a dude 10 rows down in front of me.
Individual people trying to start altercations. It was like that the entire day.
It was very pointed.
It was not just our section. It was all around. Virginia Tech fans suck. I hope we never interact with them again. But I will be rooting for them throughout the rest of the season because I want this Vanderbilt win to look as good as possible. So even though I hate their fan base, I'll be rooting for their team.
I'll drink to that, brother. I'm on the same page with you.
So let's get into these stats, and then we'll get into our 3 key takeaways and then start shouting out some guys.
Hell yeah.
How about that? So let's do individual stats.
Yeah.
Diego Pavia.
The big pisser.
Passing 12 of 16, 190 yards, 2 touchdowns, and most importantly, 0 interceptions.
Yep.
Rushing the ball. Diego Pavia, leading rusher, 26 carries, 104 yards, and a touchdown. Cedric Alexander, and these stats do not do him justice with what he did on the field. 17 carries, 69 yards, and a touchdown with a long of 13. Incredible game.
He was sensational. He is the unsung hero of this game.
We talked about it in the preview, and we're going to get into some of this stuff while reading this, whatever. We talked about it in the preview of the offense that this would be a running back by committee. That is clearly not the case. There is one big dog in that running back backfield, and it's Cedric Alexander.
You got your racehorse now.
I think A.J. Newberry and Gillespie and Monty Jones are great depth guys. Newberry's great in pass pro.
He was a sensational.
Cedric Alexander is a different level of running back.
Yeah,
and he should be getting a bulk.
Yep, you got your racehorse now.
Receiving, my boy, Quincy Skinner Jr., 4 catches, 72 yards, and a touchdown. Big Quincy stepping up after all the camp reports were that, he hadn't really flashed in the way we had hoped. He flashed on Saturday.
I know we talk about that touchdown too, but dude, shout out on that first drive on 3rd down, him having that diving catch on the Virginia Tech sideline. Huge.
And the only tight end with a catch was the second leading receiver, Eli Stowers, 2 catches, 46 yards. Junior Sherrill was very involved in the passing game, but 3 catches, 34 yards. Virginia Tech has some good corners, and specifically they have one very good corner, and he seemed to be matched up on Junior Sherrill a majority of the game. Cedric Alexander, 2 catches, 19 yards. Loic Fungi, 1 catch for 19 yards. Langston Patterson led the team in tackles. I believe he's second in the SEC in total tackles, 10 total tackles, 4 solos, 1 tackle for loss. Brian Longwell, 9 tackles, 2 solos, half a tackle for loss. I won't run through all of the tackle leaders, but C.J. Taylor and Zaylen Wood with 7, Miles Capers with 6, Randon Fontenette with 5 sacks, Zaylen Wood with 1, Linus Zunk with 2 big ones to end the half in that first half, and Sid Noor 1 sack as well. So both transfers on the defensive line recorded a sack.
Yeah.
Huge.
Massive.
Huge that those transfers have
instant impact guys.
And then, of course, Seabrooks with that interception. Trevor, that's the stats. The most impressive stat, actually, for this Vanderbilt team is one of Virginia Tech's stats.
Yeah.
And that's Virginia Tech's team rushing yards.
Yep. Talk on it.
Virginia Tech, as a team, 30 carries, 75 yards.
And Tootin is a hell of a running back. He's a good running back.
2.5 yards per carry. Vanderbilt held Kyron Drones to 16 carries for 19 yards.
Yep.
That was another key that me, you, and Billy talked about repeatedly. You have to contain Kyron Drones.
Yep.
If you don't contain Kyron Drones, the rest of your defensive game plan is done.
Yep.
Vanderbilt actually had the athletes to contain him. That was the biggest. Vanderbilt had the athletes.
Yep. Yes.
They had the athletes for the first time. I also want to talk or bring up the time of possession. Vanderbilt dominated time of possession.
Textbook football.
That was included in my 140-plus rushing yards. Vanderbilt time of possession, 34 minutes, 32 seconds. Virginia Tech, 25 minutes, 28 seconds. Kyron Drones put up some yards through the air.
Yeah.
A couple of them were on broken plays.
Yeah.
Or broken coverages.
The big one. Yeah.
Kyron Drones, 22 of 34, 322 yards, 1 pick. Overall, this is where I was having an issue with how Virginia Tech fans are evaluating this game. Virginia Tech may have not played their best football, but they weren't sloppy.
No.
That's the part. They didn't turn the ball over 4 times. They didn't have all these. They had the couple mental mistakes, like that one with 2 number zeros in the field, but Vanderbilt just lined up and beat them.
Yes.
That was the part. It wasn't fluky big plays from Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt dominated time of possession, dominated on the ground, got more pressure on their quarterback. They had the athletes that matched up with them. Vanderbilt won that game. And I think, and I can confidently say, even though they were a 13.5-point underdog, if they played 10 times, I think Vanderbilt, Virginia Tech would each win 5.
Yeah.
I think they were either evenly matched or maybe you give Vanderbilt a slight edge.
Yeah. And Vanderbilt, I'm so glad you brought that up. Vanderbilt fans, do not let anybody tell you differently than this. Virginia Tech did not lose that game. Vanderbilt won that game. Yep. Point blank, period. You talk about time of possession, and this is going to play into time of possession, but more than anything, what wins you ball games? Trench play. Vanderbilt dominated Vatech in the offensive line and in the defensive line. On both sides of the ball, Vanderbilt had their way with them. Vatech did not lose this game. Vanderbilt beat them. Do not let anybody tell you differently. That is a huge step. I would have been okay if Vatech had lost and Vanderbilt won in fluky fashion. I don't care.
But that's not how it happened.
But that's not how it happened. Vanderbilt lined up, played grown man ball, beat them in terms of X's and O's, and I'm going to say it, they beat them in Jimmy's and Joe's too.
This is also something that frustrates me. People always like to talk about the quality of your coach and the game plans and the X's and the O's. And when you have an entire offseason to plan for an opponent, it should be a benefit to the team that your coach and his coaching staff out game planned the opponent with an entire offseason to prepare. Which Clark Lee, Jerry Kill, Tim Beck, they all out game planned.
Yep.
They had a better plan going into that game than Brent Bry and his staff.
Yeah.
And they dominated. And for some reason, it's like, well, they jumped out 17-0 early, but it was the first game of the year and they just had a really good game plan. I'm like, yeah, they had a really good game. Yes, that's part of
that's football.
That's part of the football game.
Yeah.
They didn't run a bunch of trick plays and fake punts. They just came out and ran their offense efficiently against you, and everything you did, they had a counter to it early. Yeah. That's called football.
Vanderbilt ran a updated, modified 1970s offense, and you could not stop it. And Vanderbilt, Tim Beck, and Clark Lee, for the most part of this game, did whatever they wanted, and they could not be stopped except for a small portion of the game, but we'll get into that a little bit more. But when it mattered, Clark Lee and Tim Beck won that ball game.
Vanderbilt ran the freaking football. Vanderbilt ran the ball 72.7% of overall plays that game, ranking number 4 in all of FBS as the most rushing plays. Vanderbilt also averaged 3.8 yards per rush. They ran the ball 48 times. 48 times for 181 yards, the 22nd most rushing yards as a team in the country. The defense also plugged up the run.
Yeah.
Granted, they jumped out early, so Virginia Tech wasn't able to run the ball as much as they wanted. But Virginia Tech, who is a hell of a running football team, averaged 2.5 yards per carry.
Yep.
Top 20 in the country in week 1. That is dominant.
Yep.
Top 20 when a lot of teams played very, very low-level competition. A lot of this was not against Power 4 teams.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt still ranking top 20
Yeah.
in yards per rush.
This is not
Virginia
against
Tech
that
game.
2022 Hawaii team.
No.
Don't get it twisted. This is against a team that real people who get paid to write and discuss football said was going to be a playoff team.
That they were a dark horse. Don't let people twist this. Now that Virginia Tech lost to Vanderbilt, all of a sudden they suck.
Yep.
All of a sudden they're a low-tier ACC team.
Speak on it.
That may end up being true.
Yeah.
Okay? It might. I'm not saying it won't. I'm just saying that that was not the narrative going into the season.
Speak on
The
it.
narrative was this team went 6-6, won their bowl game, had a winning season, had 25 of their 29 players with 300-plus snaps played returning. This team was going to compete for the ACC. Virginia Tech football was back. Just because Vanderbilt came out and beat them does not mean that that was not true. Virginia Tech does not suck all of a sudden. They play Marshall this upcoming week. I almost guarantee they're going to dominate Marshall and obliterate them. I don't know how Virginia Tech's season is going to play out, but that team does not suck.
Yep.
That is not a bottom feeder Power 4 program. Vanderbilt did not go and beat Rutgers. All right, no offense. We're in the same category, Rutgers, so no offense. But Vanderbilt did not go beat a bottom-tier team. Virginia Tech was expected to be good. You're not going to bleach that history of all the hype that was coming into this season. It's obviously not going to come true now, but this Virginia Tech team did not suck.
Yeah, the internet is forever, and you can still go online right now and read where Ralph Russo, the head columnist for the Associated Press's college football, wrote that Vodtech was going to win the ACC and make the playoff. You can still go read that. That dude has been writing about football longer than both of us have been alive, and he had them in the playoff.
Yeah, that's been a little – overall, it's been very positive. I think people have recognized this is a big victory. And honestly, Vanderbilt fans don't need anything external at this point. It's great to see, but this was just internally an incredible victory. It is a little frustrating watching the narrative shift slightly to what's wrong with Virginia Tech more than what's right with Vanderbilt, which is expected. And Vanderbilt's going to have the opportunity to prove themselves.
We must sway the non-believers.
The revolution will be televised.
We tried to tell you guys.
We tried
to tell them to turn on the TV. They're turning on the TV now, Will.
People are starting to turn it on. Trevor, you want to get to our 3 key takeaways?
We haven't even taken a cocktail break, dude. We've just been zooming, big dog.
Because we still have a preview, remember?
Oh my gosh, dude. My brain is scrambled.
Yeah. All right. Let's do the cocktail break.
We can keep rolling, dude. I'm firing on all cylinders.
Where are we
right
at
now.
on time?
We're almost at an hour.
Yeah, let's do the cocktail break.
Yeah.
Because the preview.
2 cocktail breaks?
This is gonna be no, because I don't want to have to edit it more. This is going to be kind of a little bit different because most weeks we're actually going to have a more detailed preview, so we'll dedicate more time to the preview. No offense, Alcorn State. We're not going to be dedicating that much time to it.
Yeah. Doors are coming.
So everybody go grab yourself a cold one now that we've recapped and ran through the box score of the Vanderbilt victory over Virginia Tech in week 1, moving the Commodores to 1-0. Me and Trevor are going to give our 3 key takeaways to the game and also point out maybe a couple concerns that we had on the field. Not to be a wet blanket, but a couple things that we need to see Vanderbilt improve. So grab yourself a cold one, and we will be right back. Welcome back from the TDR cocktail break, and welcome back into episode 280 of the Door Report. Me and Trevor have our 3 key takeaways from Vanderbilt's victory over Virginia Tech coming up, and we also have a brief preview of Vanderbilt's upcoming matchup against Alcorn State in week 2 on September 7th. Trevor, do you want to get started with your first key takeaway, or do you want me to start?
I'll get started. I said this on the Spaces. I'm going to keep saying it because I was floored by his overall performance. Randon Fontenette is everything we thought he would be and somehow more. He was all over the field. He was amazing in the run game. He was amazing in the pass game. He looks like an SEC football player out there. Randon Fontenette legitimately shocked me. I love his game. I love the tenacity, and I love the grit that he plays the game with. That is a guy that can take over ball games and win you ball games, and to have him and CJ and Langston all in the field together, that's massive. I loved watching Randon Fontenette.
Fontenette is a legit athlete. He's a legit SEC athlete, an incredible pickup. He got beat a couple times in coverage, I will say, but overall, an incredible first performance. He was awesome. He was as advertised. Yeah. That's what a lot of this is a situation where we've kind of had to redo how we were planning on doing our recaps. Is normally we were kind of planning on criticizing or pointing out specific position groups that exceeded our expectations. The problem right now is every position group exceeded our expectations.
Literally every single one.
It's not a problem.
It's awesome.
But when you're evaluating this, it's hard to say from where my expectations were. Even tight end, everyone exceeded my expectations. Yeah. So there's no specific position group I can say this player was really good or this position group was really good. That's hard to do because all of them were better than I thought they would be.
I just think with Fontenette, and he was the transfer that we had the highest, and I say it's us too, and I think most Vanderbilt fans had the highest expectations for going into this season. And he really did exceed those. Like, he looks like, and this is no disrespect to CJ Taylor. This is no disrespect to Langston. He looks like, if you didn't know CJ Taylor and Langston Patterson, he looks like he could be the guy. Does that make sense?
It's nice to have multiple the guys.
Yes.
It doesn't take away from them, but you have multiple guys who you're like, one-on-one, I'll take my guy.
Yeah.
And that's something Vanderbilt has had one of, maybe 2 of in past years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a good example of that guy energy is Jawan Williams.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll take him. It doesn't matter if it's DK Metcalf.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's AJ Brown.
Anybody can get it.
I'm taking Jawan.
Yeah.
So, and that's not hyperbole. If anybody out there is a fan and or a non-Vanderbilt fan listening and saying that's dumb, DK Metcalf and AJ Brown, he matched up with him, and he won the game locking him up in overtime in Vanderbilt Stadium.
I love AJ Brown, but I love Juwan Williams more.
Yeah, he did lock him up, and that's what won in the game. So I'm glad you have Fontenette. He's not on my key takeaways. I was really afraid ours were all going to overlap. Because,
I think they are, and I'm trying to go off script.
Because I was listening. I wrote down my 3 key takeaways before I wrote down anything else. Mm-hmm. Before I listened to any other recap podcast from Vanderbilt. And then I listened to the VandySports.com podcast and their recap. Billy Derrick had in the same way he had the exact same prediction of the game. He had word for word the exact same number 1 key takeaway. Yeah. And that's going to be the very obvious one. Vanderbilt has a quarterback. Mm-hmm. Let me repeat it. Vanderbilt has a quarterback. And when you have a quarterback, you have a chance. Mm-hmm. As Nash on Twitter always says, when you have a quarterback, you have a chance. For the first time in a long time, Vanderbilt has a quarterback that can make plays off script and on script. Can make plays with his legs, can make plays through the air. He has that, for lack of a better term, that fuck you energy.
That aura.
That we
He's got that aura.
That we always talk about that Vanderbilt is lacking. Yeah. That I am better than you.
And I know it.
I don't care if my home stadium is 70% full with opposing fans. I don't care if media is talking down on me. I don't care that I'm being disrespected. When I step on the field, I am the best player. And it's one thing to talk it.
Yeah.
It's one thing to talk it. It's one thing to do it throughout your entire career at New Mexico State, then move to Vanderbilt and do it game one.
Yeah.
And then in your post-game interview say, nobody ever gives me a shot.
Yeah.
Being called a poor man's Trace McSorley.
Yup.
Going in and saying that he had interest in the transfer portal, but Vanderbilt was the only Power 4 program that was interested, that chip on the shoulder. Vanderbilt has a guy, and that is going to give them a chance in every matchup. Maybe that's hyperbole because they have a brutal schedule with 5 top 15 opponents. But outside of maybe Alabama and maybe Texas, and I'll even throw in there, Vanderbilt has a chance against anybody when you have a quarterback that can reach that level that Diego can reach. So that doesn't mean they're going to win those games, but you've got a shot.
You just got to win 5 more.
So my key number one is, I talked about it in the preview, is I would know pretty early, because I said I could see this offense being a disaster and coming out just 3 and out after 3 and out after 3 and out. Pavia proved it the complete other direction. I feel so justified in the hype that we had when we first heard he was transferring, because I don't even know what episode that would have been.
It was back in like March.
But whenever he announced
basketball season,
all of the, and no offense to the guys that cover Vanderbilt, there was still a lot of talk. He's transferring in. He's probably going to be the backup. Nate Johnson still has the big NIL deal. He's still the guy. And I vividly remember saying no. Diego Pavia is the guy. I don't care what you read. I don't care what it is. The Conference Player of the Year does not transfer over following his former head coach and OC, and he's not going to be a backup.
Yeah.
And he came out there, and he balled out.
He let it hang, dude.
And it's not just his play. It's everything.
It's his
He
attitude.
is the type of dude to get juice back in this Vanderbilt program. If Vanderbilt can continue to win, he is going to become a national favorite and get eyes on Vanderbilt. People that don't care about SEC football, that are just football fans, are going to be drawn to Diego Pavia. That's something Vanderbilt has lacked so badly, because even they're great players, and this is not a shot at them. They're great guys. CJ Taylor, Langston Patterson, they're more introverted guys, a little quieter. You need that guy that takes that on a team. I always talk about this with friends and my dad, that you need a guy that's the shit talker. You need the guy that loves having the opponents wanting to take that extra shot on him. It takes the pressure off the guys that don't have to do that anymore. Vanderbilt has that at the most important position. I could talk about Diego Pavia for 5 hours. Everything I saw Saturday was beyond my wildest expectations of him, and I'm now excited for the rest of Vanderbilt football season. Diego Pavia, Clark Lee, the entire staff, hell of a job. Just hell of a job.
And one of the beautiful things about Diego, one of the many beautiful things about our sweet boy Pissin Pavia, is everything that you love about college football, everything that the NFL is not, in terms of the quirkiness, in terms of the swagger, in terms of just the sporadic nature that is college football. Diego Pavia embodies that in the best way possible. And a lot of people have been saying this on message boards, and I totally agree. I think so far, I feel like they've done a pretty good job. Go buy your Diego Pavia NIL shirts. Go buy your Diego Pavia NIL jerseys. Vanderbilt football needs to market the hell out of Diego Pavia. And I wish I had their username, because I would give them a shout out. There is a huge Hispanic Latino population in Nashville. I don't know this. I could totally be missing the mark. I don't know if Diego Pavia knows how to speak Spanish. To market to that community, dude, put him out there, garner as much attention using Diego Pavia as you humanly can. I think it would be awesome.
I didn't even think about that aspect of it.
I think it would be awesome.
But yeah, Pavia is a star. Vanderbilt has Vanderbilt hasn't had a star potential since Cutler. Maybe Matthews. Maybe you could
at
toss
quarterback. No, it hasn't been since Cutler.
Maybe you could say possibly Jordan Rodgers, possibly, but he had a big name. He garnered in the same way that, like, just because of the names, like Scottie Pippen Jr. was a hell of a player.
Yeah.
but his name garnered attention and was also a big part of Vanderbilt getting some national attention with them.
Yeah.
Jordan Rogers, you could say that, but Pavia is up there on a different level of what potentially could be. So, Trevor, what's your key number 2?
I feel like I'm going to steal your shine, but here we go. We've got to talk about it. The trench play.
Yep.
Dude, I have nothing, absolutely nothing but glowing things to say about the offensive line and about the defensive line. They absolutely manhandled Virginia Tech on both sides of the ball. And alongside Diego Pavia, the offensive and defensive line won that football game for Vanderbilt. From every guy on the offensive line to every guy on the defensive line. And I know you said it, sort of every position group and every player really exceeded your expectation. No, and I was high on Pavia, and still, even watching him, I was like, wow, he's more than what I even thought he could be. I felt the same about Randall Fontenette. No position group or person in general embodies that more than the way this offensive and defensive line played. They were stellar. Shout out to Coach Klinakis. He had those boys mauling guys out there. Shout out to Javon Hay. He had that defensive line absolutely humming. I mean, when was the last time Vanderbilt had 4 sacks against a Power 4 opponent or Power 5? It's probably been forever. Line is zunk. So I know that I sort of hate whenever they're like, oh, we want to develop guys. I understand that's Clark's mantra. You want to talk about somebody who they developed the hell out of? Line is sunk. He has turned in, and I know it's only one game. He showed flash. He showed real flash. Cinder and Wood came out and were instant impact guys. Miles Capers had a hell of a game. Nobody's talking about Miles Capers. Miles Capers had a great game. He was in the backfield all game long and had a ton of hits behind the line of scrimmage. The defensive and the offensive line were absolutely sensational in every aspect. Whenever we get to our concerns, I have zero concerns about the trenches.
Well, that was my key takeaway number 2. So literally everything that you just said.
I mean, we have to hit on it.
I mean, that's an obvious one is Vanderbilt won at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
And that's with the returning talent Virginia Tech out on the offensive line, defensive line, with the new pieces on Vanderbilt's O-line, the transfers on the defensive line. I thought they had a chance to hold up and look decent. I didn't expect them to win and dominate the way that they did. So shout out to Steiner. Shout out to the strength staff.
Dude.
Everybody looked better than they did last year. Yeah, exactly what you just said. I have it written down as the big uglies came to play. So that was as much as Pavia was a revelation. The offensive and defensive line was a revelation.
Did they give up any sacks?
Yeah, a couple.
Yeah, but it wasn't. See, that shows you how good they played. And I've rewatched this game. I obviously watched it in real time. I rewatched the whole game in its entirety, and I've went back and watched highlights. And they definitely gave up sacks. I'm trusting you, but the fact that I'm having to even think, did they give up any sacks? Goes to show you how well the offensive line played. If you're having to think, wow, did they actually? I don't know.
Yeah, they gave up 2 sacks. I was right,
dude. But shout out to those
and
guys.
Also it's a big part of it. The line, I'm not taking away from them. Vanderbilt having a mobile quarterback.
Absolutely agree.
That's a big part of it as well. And the new scheme they're running, everything about it benefits the offensive line and allows them to not give up sacks.
Yeah.
On top of the fact they played well. So the transfers worked, everything clicked. Hubbard came in early in that game and played a ton of snaps starting on that offensive line or playing on the offensive line.
Dude, big glow.
So
shout out to my glow.
I got a little distracted there on 2. We have an Alcorn State fan chirping at the door report on Twitter. I'm just not even going to respond.
Anybody can get it, dude.
No, I don't care about getting it. I'm just
anybody can get it.
This is what's always funny sometimes about playing some of these programs that have fans like that obviously attended the school, I'm assuming, whatever.
Shout out to that, dude.
I'm just like, shout out to them, whatever. There's no point in even talking because Vanderbilt, if they don't come out and win by 40,
we're going to be pissed off.
It's going to be a horribly disappointing performance.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, is there even a point?
Mm-hmm.
Is there even a point of quoting it and ratioing him?
Let the pads talk.
Yeah, the pads are just going to talk. I'm confident in Clark Lee. They're going to win by 40.
Pads popping, jaws dropping, baby. Doors on top.
Yeah. Might even quote tweet it and say, I'll eat dog shit out of a red Solo cup live on the podcast if Vanderbilt loses to Alcorn State. If Alcorn State beats Vanderbilt, you do the same. Deal? Let's see.
Put your money where your mouth is, big dog.
Let's see who's really confident. If you're so confident in your shit talking, let's see. Let's find out. I might quote tweet it with that. So
shout out to 321 Noel.
Yeah, he's just having fun. The dude's just having fun, but also at the same time, it's like, dude, come on, man. Like,
anybody can get it.
Anybody can get it. So key number 3, Trevor, what do you got?
Key number 3.
Or key takeaway number 3.
Key takeaway number 3. You sort of already hit on it, but I'm going to expound on it. The strength and conditioning staff, Robert Steiner. Wow. I mean, what more can you say? What more can you? Vodtech started dropping and Vandy didn't. Vandy kept the juice going. They kept their foot on the gas in terms of guys just kept going. Guys kept playing hard. You didn't see hands on hips. And even if you did, even if they did, you'd understand it because it was on that AstroTurf, not AstroTurf. It's not 1982 anymore. On that turf, I can't imagine. Probably got up to 120 out there. They did not quit. They persevered and they manhandled Vodtech and they broke them. Vodtech started dropping and Vandy didn't. Shout out to Steiner. Shout out to the strength and conditioning program. Like, that was insane. He deserves a lot of props. He deserves a lot of props. I've heard he's a wonderful guy. I actually talked to one of the players, and he said that Steiner, he said, quote, Steiner is one of the best coaches I've ever had in my life. So they love that guy.
That kind of plays in to what my key number 3 is. It's just a conglomeration of all those things and everything we've been talking about. My key takeaway number 3 is, and I hope I'm not overreacting. I don't think I am. This is a new Vanderbilt. That's what I took away from this. It's not that they won. It is how it happened.
Yeah.
And if it was a dominating victory, if they get up 24-0 in the first half and they end up winning by 20 points and it's dominant throughout, I don't even know if I'd feel as strongly about this. It is the fact of how it played out and the mistakes they made, and it felt like they lost the game 3 separate times and blew a lead 3 separate times. Vanderbilt, multiple times throughout that game, had moments that they would not bounce back from in the past. When they got down 27-20 after that blown coverage, they don't bounce back from that in the past. When they missed that field goal to tie the game going into overtime, they don't bounce back from that in the past. When they lose the coin flip in overtime, they don't bounce back from that in the past. There are so many things throughout the game, whether it's penalties that ended up they actually got to stop on that drive, whatever it is, and also just how they looked. They looked more athletic, and that's the part where yours circles into mine, is there's something that has been lacking on this roster where they don't fully look like an SEC team. I'll even go back to the Derek Mason era, the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Where they're either they're big, but they're a little unathletic like they were last year, or they're undersized like early in Clark Lee's era or in the end of the Derek Mason era. They looked like an SEC football team out there. And that was a revelation. I don't think it's something you can measure in numbers of weight across the roster, but when you look at them, they looked more athletic. They looked bigger. They were closing sideline to sideline quicker. And the offensive line just looked athletic.
They did.
And the defensive line looked explosive. And so that can all be, I think that can almost be fully attributed to Steiner.
Yeah.
Obviously, Barton Simmons is a big part of that, bringing in the guys, Clark Lee, and evaluating, because they had 53 new players. This is the first time you've seen a full roster brought in by this staff.
Yeah.
But man, Steiner deserves a lot of credit. That looked like a new Vanderbilt team with a new mentality.
Yeah.
So that's our 3 takeaways. We shouted out some players that were great. Some concerns. Any concerns that jump out to you off the top, or are you just fully positive?
They put the ball on the ground a lot. I think that's concerning. I'm glad that they recovered it every single time. Some snaps were high. I think I said I have nothing negative to say about the offensive line. I mean, none of them were like terrible. Like he didn't snap it over Pavia's head, but like some of them were like not right on the number. That stuff you can clean up, but they put the ball on the ground a little bit more than you'd like, but all's well that ends well. They didn't let Vatek recover. As Phoebe is latched on.
Ow.
Ooh, yep, I heard that.
You got a little skin on that.
I heard that one.
But yeah, I have that written down. There's some bad exchanges in some jet sweep motions. It looked like it was Sherrill trying to put it away.
He would have had a touchdown on that.
And unable to do it. Some bad read option exchanges. So that's stuff that's concerning. The ball bounced the right way. So Vanderbilt was able to recover it. But in the future, maybe the ball doesn't bounce the right way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something to learn from after a win. Also, the stalled offense in the third quarter. The staff needs to learn from that. The offensive staff, Tim Beck, Jerry Kill, need to learn. You can't sit on a 10-point lead in the third quarter. You can't. You have to stay aggressive. You have to keep doing what you're doing. So that's a concern. Also, just an overall concern. I didn't see anything that necessarily fully alleviated this. A lack of consistent explosive plays. And what I mean by that isn't necessarily like the pass they had to Stowers or the pass they had to Quincy. I mean, if Vanderbilt gets down 14-0, 10-0 to start a game, are they going to be able to shift their offense into comeback mode? Are they going to be able to not turn into a passing team? Mm-hmm. They're still a running football team, but shift that to where they now are throwing the ball 50-50. That's something you didn't see. They didn't have to adjust how they played. So, and they're probably not going to have to adjust how they play in the next two games. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to really learn about that until October when they go on the road and face Missouri. So that's I don't want to be a wet blanket because I am extremely excited. They exceeded every expectation. I'm really nitpicking, but they still don't have those consistent explosive plays. They have to really scheme them up to have a 20-plus yard play.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'm not bringing up any concerns. Maybe you could bring up, I want to see Pavia get hit less. He ran the ball a lot, and he took a lot of hits. He is a stocky guy, but he ran the ball 26 times, and a lot of those he got hit on. I would like to see Pavia take less hits. Obviously, you have to do what you have to do to win the game.
Yeah.
But that amount of hits, Nate Johnson, you better be ready and warmed up because best case scenario, he's going to get knocked out a couple plays a few times throughout this season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So is that about it for the Vanderbilt-Virginia Tech reaction? God, it was beautiful.
Dude. Can you believe that? I just kept I texted my dad on Labor Day. I was
there
like,
we go.
Dad,
respect the labor unions.
I go, yeah, dude, hey, I love myself some unions. I'm part of one myself. I go, Dad, can you believe this? He goes, I can't. He's like, I literally cannot believe it's Monday and I cannot believe what I experienced.
And unless something goes horribly wrong, Vanderbilt's going to be undefeated going into October.
Yep.
In college football season. So that leads us into the Alcorn State preview. So let's go ahead and get into that.
Yeah.
We have to. Alcorn State, the Alcorn State Braves. We actually have an evening kickoff. So
what the hell's a Braves?
So we're going to have an all-day tailgate out in Lot 2. Please come out and join us.
We would love to see you guys.
Tickets are very cheap. Go out. Buy tickets. Mm-hmm. Let's get fans in the stands. Let's support these guys. It's going to be a fun time. Come drink some Outlaw Mile High Light beer in Lot 2.
Only 105 calories.
And let's celebrate and enjoy a Vanderbilt victory because I'm very confident.
Yeah.
Televised if you are too much of a coward and won't come out and attend the game in person at First Bank Stadium. Televised on ESPNU. Alcorn State, we have a small sample size of them playing. They did play in week 1. But in 2023, Alcorn State was pretty decent. They weren't bad. They play in the SWAC. Last year, they went 7-4 overall, 6-2 in conference. RIP Steve McNair, a historically black college that has a lot of history and some good players out of the program overall, but they have a brand new first-year head coach coming in, Cedric Thomas, without a lot of experience on winning football programs. He played for Alcorn State. No, he didn't play. He was a GA at Alcorn State. He coached there for a while, was a coach at Arkansas Pine Bluff, was the DB coach at Southern Miss, coach at Mississippi Delta, which is a terrible program, and then was the DC at Alcorn State the last couple of years. This is his first head coaching gig.
Yeah.
So this Alcorn State team might not really be what they were. His only head coaching experience is at Arkansas Pine Bluff, which is they got beat by like 70 by Arkansas. So last week, week 1, Arkansas State played UAB, University of Alabama, Birmingham.
Played a high school coach.
And Alcorn State lost 41-3. And it was pretty dominant. It was not a close 41-3. I went through and looked at the box score, and it was shocking. Their leading passer was Roderick Hartsfield, who was 1 of 2 for 31 yards. I don't even think he's.
Are you serious?
I don't even think he's a quarterback, actually.
Oh my word!
So I think he's their backup quarterback. And then they had Xavier Vaughn, who was 5 of 12 for 25 yards.
Oh my word!
As a team, they ran the ball 41 times for 117 yards. Their starting running back had 12 carries for 37 yards. On the other side, UAB, who went, by the way, just a reminder, past season success is not always indicative, obviously, with Vanderbilt coming out and beating Virginia Tech after 2-10. But UAB went 4-8 last year. And UAB was up 28-3 at halftime. Their quarterback, Jacob Zeno, was 23 of 32 for 215, 2 touchdowns. They ran the ball 53 times for 302 yards.
Yeah.
For 5.7 yards per carry. Vanderbilt is going to dominate on the ground. That's why I'm so confident.
Yeah.
That's the reason. As a Vanderbilt fan, there's always the 1% chance. Learned that I will never take a win for granted. This is about as close as it gets because I watched some of that UAB Alcorn State replay. UAB physically dominated them, and Vanderbilt physically dominated Virginia Tech. Vanderbilt would physically dominate UAB. They will physically dominate Alcorn State. If Vanderbilt remembers how to put on their shoulder pads and strap up their helmet and remembers the basic 15 plays in their offensive playbook, they will come out and win by 30 plus. Yeah. If they come out and play a bad football game, they will win by 28.
Yeah.
That's the basics of my evaluation.
I'm going to say this. If Vanderbilt doesn't put up 50 on these guys, then it's a huge disappointment.
For example, like last year, everyone remembers the Alabama A&M game.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt did not play well.
No.
Did not dominate.
Really poorly.
And Vanderbilt was bad last year.
Yeah.
And they still won that game 47-13.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt is better this year. Alcorn State is historically better than Alabama A&M. This year, I think they're much more comparable to Alabama A&M. I don't see it being a ball game.
No, it's no. And I really don't have any. We talked about this before the pod. I really don't have any keys to victory. It's like you said, as long as they can put on a helmet, they're going to beat the hell out of this team. Really, what I'm looking for is I would like for them to have such a dominant lead that Diego Pavia does not start the third quarter. I would like to see Nate Johnson second half and on. I would really like to see everybody. I would like to see them empty the bitch.
Empty the bitch.
Empty the bench. I'm sorry, guys. Language. Explicit on TDR.
It was already explicit.
It was already explicit. Dude, it's always been TDR. It's always been explicit. I would like to see Michael Bell some sweeps. Dude, empty it out, dude. I would. Hell, we got this helmet here. Give me some pads, Clark. I'll go out there in the fourth quarter and lay some wood, big dog.
Yeah, I'll just run through my 3 keys because there's no point going back and forth. They're pretty much that. My number 1 key, dominate the line of scrimmage and dominate early, which leads into my second key, which is I want to see a lot of Nate Johnson.
Yeah.
I want Pavia to have a weaker rest. That Georgia State game, Vanderbilt is better, should win, but that's a sneaky game on the road. I want Pavia to be rested up, fully healthy, heal up those bruises because he took a lot of hits in that Virginia Tech game. Get the backups in just in early in the second half, hopefully to start the second half. And then number 3 also ties into that, no injuries. I want to be healthy.
Yeah.
So my 3 keys are not necessarily keys to victory in the same way we don't necessarily in the past do keys to victory against teams like Alabama or Georgia. We don't necessarily do keys to victory. This is on the other side, which is we're not necessarily doing keys to victory because if Vanderbilt loses to Alcorn State, I will eat shit out of a red Solo cup.
Yeah.
I will.
Phoebe's.
We don't have a dog.
It'll be Phoebe's.
It'll be Phoebe's. I'll eat cat shit out of it. We will take it.
You will eat her litter box.
We will scoop it out of the litter box. I will eat it live on the next podcast. And I will throw up. It will get us banned from YouTube.
Yeah.
But I'm not like that dude from Twitter. I'm a man of my word. I will publicly humiliate myself.
Yeah.
For the honor.
Yeah.
Because people will respect me.
For the brand.
They will not respect me anymore as a human, but they'll respect me. Deep down inside, they'll be like,
they'll be like, he did it.
They'll be like, that boy's got some nuts on him.
Yeah, he let him hang.
So, but they're not going to lose. There has been no line released by Vegas. I've checked everything. Hopefully soon there will be a line.
Do you think there will be one though?
I'm not sure.
About this.
The FBS, FCS are weird. Sometimes the books just don't release lines. You can sometimes find them on more obscure books, but I couldn't even find them on OddsShark, on some offshores like BetDSI, Bovada. They didn't have lines. FanDuel, DraftKings, of course, didn't have them.
Mm-hmm.
So right now there's no line. If I had to put out a line and I was an odds maker, I would have it at minus 38.5, minus 39 for Vanderbilt. I think that's where it would sit, maybe somewhere in the 30s. But that would be my bet on it. Would be like minus 38.5.
What would you set the total at? The point total?
49.5, probably.
Okay, yeah.
Probably 48.5, 49.5 with a minus 37, minus 38.5 line. That would be my guess. If we do find a line, we will tweet it out from TDR, but so far there's nothing.
And like you said, it might be an offshore line. So
yeah, we'll see. But the FBS FCS is kind of weird. So we will see you all. I think the tailgate, Scott hasn't made the graphic for us yet.
Yeah.
Damn it, Scott.
But, Scott, come on,
I think we'll be out there starting at like 10 a.m. On Saturday. So Miller McKee going to be out there setting it up early, whipping up some food for all of us. So come join us in Lot 2, sip some Outlaw beer, and enjoy Vanderbilt football in Week 2 coming off a victory. Undefeated Vanderbilt Commodores going into Week 2. Who's got it better than us?
Nobody.
Trevor, you have anything else before we close it out?
I am bringing my girlfriend to the game.
Predictions.
Oh,
we got to do predictions.
Yeah, I am bringing my girlfriend to the game for her first ever Vanderbilt football game. Do you think she will leave me due to my behavior at a football game?
That actually, for real, happened in my life last year. If you remember.
I do. Unfortunately, I do remember.
I was dating somebody. They attended a game, and then we broke up. There were other reasons, but we did break up right after the first game she ever attended.
I vividly remember.
Yeah, so there's a possibility. I will say from experience, there's a chance.
I'm sorry, babe, but I will not be on my best behavior.
Welcome to the welcome to the show. But let's get our predictions out.
Honestly, I don't know anything about Alcorn State, but I'm gonna say like I really do believe if Vanderbilt doesn't score 50 points, I'm gonna be pissed off. I'm gonna go Vanderbilt 53-7. I think probably like a late garbage time touchdown.
I'm going to go pretty similar. I'm going to go 44-3. 44-3. I think they'll kick 2 field goals.
Okay.
Is that right, math? No. That's wrong.
That's like a field goal and a 2-point conversion.
I'm going to go 48-3. I'm going to
48-3.
take that back.
Okay.
48-3. That might be a little high. Somewhere between 40. I don't like this prediction.
Yeah.
All right. 41-3. 41-3. And the reason I'm saying that is even if Vanderbilt dominates, it's going to be on the ground.
Yeah.
And in the new college football without the clock stopping after first down,
it's going to go quick.
Those quarters move fast, dude. They move fast when you're running the football. So 41-3 is my final prediction. But just because Vanderbilt's going to dominate and the clock's going to move real fast. Yeah. So I'm 41-3. Trevor, what was yours?
I think I said 52-7.
52-7. 41-3. 52-7. Now it's time to close that episode 280. Any last words here?
Dude. Who's got it better than us?
Come join us in Lot 2 on Saturday. For myself, Will Byrum, and my co-host, Trevor Hulan.
Oh, shout out to the homie Luke, by the way.
This has been episode 280 of The Door Report, powered by 615 Collectibles.